retold from the Francis Hodgson Burnett. Not terribly long ago, on a dark winter's day, a little girl sat in a couch with her father and stared out the windows at the broad, fog-covered streets of London. It seemed to her like only yesterday that they had been strolling the sunny streets of India. But of course it hadn't been yesterday. They had taken a long sea voyage, and now they were here in this new and strange place. Sarah was only 7, but felt very much older, as though she had lived a long, long time. "Papa," she said, as the coach started to slow down. "Papa?" Captain Crewe looked down at his daughter. "Yes, my little missus?" Captain Crewe was a boyish, happy-go-lucky sort of man with a post in the British Army of India. Little Missus was his pet name for her because she seemed to be so old-fashioned and wise for her age. Sarah loved it when he called her that. "Are we there yet?" she whispered. The driver steered the coach through tall iron gates and into a cobblestone square. "Yes, Sarah, we are finally here." Although he tried to hide his sadness, Sarah knew that he hadn't wished they arrived. For a long time now, he had been preparing her for here, the boarding school that was to be her new home. Because the climate of India was bad for children, either blazing hot or cold, and wet during the monsoons, they were generally sent away to England. She had seen other children go, and sometimes felt excited about leaving on such an adventure herself, but was sad and scared at the thought of parting from her father. "It will only be for a little while," her papa had always said. Everyone would be nice to her, and he would send her plenty of books that she would devour. Before she knew it, she would be grown up and smart enough to come back to India and take care of him. Sarah liked the thought of that. Since her mother had died when Sarah was born, only the two of them were left, to take care of each other. For that reason only, she decided she would go. "Well," she said, teasing him, "if I have plenty of books, I guess I shall be all right." Her father laughed and kissed her. He wasn't sure he would be all right though, without his sprightly little companion, Sarah. But he knew he must keep that secret for a sake. The driver let them out in front of a big brick building that seemed fussy and old, but at the same time stiff and cold. An engraved brass plate on the front door read, "Miss Minchin, Select Boarding School for Young Ladies." Thank you.
So today is World Read Along Day. What's your name?
Kyra Lucia Barrow.
Kyra Lucy Barron. Do you know why, and what's your name?
Sequoia Moonjan.
Sequoia, and your name?
Leila Faye Thompson.
Okay, so today is World Read Aloud Day. Yes, and you ladies are here to read for us. And we're going to take excerpts from are these your favorite books?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so we're going to take excerpts from your favorite books throughout the first part of the show. You're going to read for us as we go in and out of the breaks and so on. But we just wanted to commemorate World Read Aloud Day when children are encouraged to read out loud, right? Yeah. Do you know why today is called World Read Aloud Day? Who knows why?
I think that it's called Read Aloud Day because everyone should be able to read, because it's a very nice art to read.
And what about you?
I think it's World Read Aloud Day because it expresses someone's feelings for a book.
Ooh, and you?
I think it's World Read Aloud Day because everyone needs a chance to read once in a while.
We have one of our little ones joining us back on set, Carrie, because today is World Read Aloud Day.
And she's going to read one of her favorite pages from this book that she's holding in her hand.
Called Frankenstein, correct? Okay, so go ahead.
Chapter 2. The story of Victor Frankenstein told in his own words. My family comes from Genevieve. My father worked hard when he was a young man. So hard, in fact, that he thought of nothing other than his duty for his country. Even love seemed less important. He didn't marry until he was much older. The true nature of my father's goodness can be seen in the story of how he and my mother came to be married. My father had a dear friend named Bruford who lost everything and fell on hard times. His life as he knew it was ruined. Bruford barely had enough money to pay back what he owned before he and his daughter moved to Lucerne. After what happened, Bruford did not want to see his friends. He was a proud man who didn't want anyone to see what had become of him. For 10 long years, my father looked for his friend. He thought he could make Bruford come home. He wanted to help him get back on his feet again. When he finally found him, the situation was far worse than my father had imagined. Bruford was very sick. His daughter, Caroline, had lost her job because she had to care for him. Together, they had little more than a few cents to rub together, in spite of her hard life. Caroline had remained kind and tender-hearted. My father saw this and fell in love with her. Bruford's health grew worse, and he died within a few months. Caroline was very upset. Not only was she poor, but now she was all alone in the world. The day of her father's funeral, she cried and cried. What else could she do? She fell down beside the coffin and wept. Her father's death upset her, but she always wondered what would happen to her now.
Oh, thank you very much. And that's your favorite book?
Yes.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for joining us and coming out so early, to be on the show with us. And we thank you very much. We thank your mommy and your daddy for bringing you here.
Chapter 22, To the Core. In the middle of the night, 3 villages in the south of the Eastern Kingdom found themselves under attack. Soldiers of the Grande Army invaded the towns and robbed the villagers all of their supplies. The villagers themselves were imprisoned and taken to the soldiers' camp. Only one village had the courage to stand up against the army, and it was destroyed in the process. As far as the soldiers knew, not a single soul had arrived to the ruthless attack. When the enslaved villagers arrived at the camp, they were lined up and each given a shovel. Their only instructions were to dig. How far do they dig? General McKees asked the masked man. They watched the villagers work from the general's comfortable tent until they hit the magma, the masked man said. He cradled the dragon egg in his hands and never let it out of his sight. It aged as the Eastern Kingdom was consumed with volcanoes. Dragons on their eggs in the magma because of their offspring grew at a rapid rate in the heat. And what happened after the egg was placed in the magma? The general asked with a sideways glance at him. I'll let you know, the masked man said, and held the egg even tighter. He was very light-lipped, knowing his knowledge of dragons was the only thing keeping him alive. You're smarter than you look, the general said. General McKees, Colonel Beaton called from the back of the tent. We have finalized our plan to attack for tomorrow, the colonel said. Captain DeLonge was standing over the general's desk. A large map of the fairy tale world had been spread across it, with several flags and figures placed in the strategic clumps throughout the kingdoms. Does the plan follow what we discussed? The general asked him. Yes, sir, the colonel said. Tomorrow at dawn we will strike the kingdoms and seize their capitals. Captain DeLonge and his men have successfully spied on the kingdom's armies, and we're pleased to inform you our army of soldiers and recruits is more than twice the size of their armies put together.
Yay, thank you very much. And this book is called
The Land of Stories and Grim Morning.
And how many stories are there in this book?
32.
Have you read all of them?
No.
Not yet. You're still reading them.
Yes.
And you love to read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to thank you very much for joining us, all 3 of you from Sacred Heart Girls. Please tell your principal, Mrs. Yewood,
Yes.
good morning, and all your teachers. And continue to read.